There are many ways to approach doing a still life picture, and we've gone through gesture drawing and blind drawing. Now we're going to do some blocking in of colors. And oftentimes students want to, go ahead and start drawing and then kind of color in the drawing. But what we're going to do here is we're going to go into this without drawing, and we'll use watercolors. I'm using a bamboo brush, which comes to a nice point, but you can also use the side of the brush to get a nice fill in a large area with like a wash. And I'm going to activate my brush, and I'm just going to use a lot of water but very little paint as I begin. And we're going to think of this very similar to a gesture drawing. Ultimately, the beginning color that I'm going to use doesn't matter very much. I could pick similar colors to what I've got there. I could pick a cool color if I'd like to. And I'm just going to pull a little bit of purple out here. And then I'm going to use this to do a gesture drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and very lightly kind of lay in the main shapes that I see. So we've got a triangular shape for the paper airplane. And I'm not worried about being perfect about this. I'm just getting the gestural lines down, the main shapes that I see. And we've got the little bottle over here. And very similar to the gesture drawing we did in pencil, I'm just laying it in very, very lightly. And then we've got to do the little cup. And I want very little paint on my brush and mainly water. And I'm actually holding my pinky onto the table so that very little of the brush is actually touching. And I can go ahead and put in the sides of the cup here, and then a little bit of the handle. That might be a little dark, so I can always hit it with some water. And we've got some of our lines down. And actually this probably needs to go a little closer over here so I can make some adjustments just with some water. And that looks about right. The bottom of the cup is going to be in here. And then we have a brush coming out of the cup, kind of in here. And a rectangle towards the top. And you can see that I've done this so lightly that it's easy for me to go back and make it darker if I want to. So same thing with a gesture drawing, we're going to start to define it a little bit more. So I can use a little bit more paint if I would like to, but I'm still using an awful lot of water. And now I'm going to define sort of the edges of this paper airplane first. We got the little seams and creases going down there. This one here, and the angle is a little bit more, and the seashell, I've got a flat part here, and it comes around, get a little bit of the wave in there. So I'm just defining it a little bit more, still using a cool color. I'm not doing tons of details, just kind of capturing the main parts of what I see. And I think I've got most of it. And here's that little back edge of the seashell where there's a little bit of a, looks like a fold in the shell, but it's just the little concave part. All right, now I'm not adding any kind of details here. Now I'm going to continue to color block and look at the main colors that I see in each part. And again, I'm working very, very light. I don't want to put any dark colors on here. So this shell has a little bit of a rosy purple color to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got my purple over here that I've already been using. I'm going to add a little drop of red to it right in the lid. You can mix your watercolors right in the lid. And then I'm going to go ahead and just put in a little bit of that color here. And intensify a little bit more. There we go. I'm just putting a little bit of that color in there, just so I know that's where that's going. We've got the container here, and it's sort of a brown-red color. So I've got a little bit of brown. I could pull that over, and I could pull in a little red. A lot of water. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that color in very, very lightly. The mug has a lot of yellow in it, so I'm going to pull a little yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in here, a little down the handle, and I've got some brown down in that part, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up that brown that I had, and I'm going to mix a little yellow with it, and I'll put that in here, and a little bit more down in here. And then I've got some brown in the seashell over here, so I'm going to go ahead and put in a little bit of that there. And the airplane, as I look at it, there's a little bit of a pink blush to it here. It's kind of a pink gray, so I'm going to add a little bit of brown and red, mix those up. It kind of makes a little bit of green with that, get a brown, and I can just kind of put that in as sort of a shadow. And this also has a little bit of that in there. Now I can even look at my background. We've got blue over here. So I'm going to block in some blue, activate my blue, pull a little into the lid, and I want very, very little color. And I see that that comes down here, goes under the handle, and then comes under this container and goes off to the side. So now I'm just going to use the side of the brush and fill that in, just with some blue. And then I've got some green going behind the brush, so go ahead and pull some green. I'm going to pull it into that yellow that I had before in the lid, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in here, and it comes down under the brush here. There's a fold in the fabric that comes over this way, and it goes off the side and under the seashell. So like I said, I'm just blocking in some colors where they belong. Here is sort of a gray blue. So I've got a little bit of blue. I can add a little bit of its opposite, orange, to get a chromatic gray. And there's some white stripes in between. I'm going to go ahead and put this in, but I'm going to leave a little bit of white in between. And then this comes under here. Pull a little bit more of that color, and it's underneath the airplane here. Now the brush, that's got a little bit of brown in it, so I'll pull the brown over to the side with a lot of water, and I'll go ahead and put that in here. Got a little pink in there, so pink is just a watered down red. Put that in there. Okay, so this is my first layer of my color blocking. So I would go ahead and use a hair dryer on this to dry it, and then I could go back and intensify my colors, intensify my lines, just as we do in a gesture drawing. We start off very, very light, and then we get more and more specific. I can actually use the tip of this brush to do little details, or if I'm uncomfortable with using a bamboo brush, I could get a small paintbrush with a point on it and start going in and adding details to this. So little by little, we're going to build this up to make a watercolor painting, but we're starting with the color blocking. So I can go back and do edges in the shell and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll start with the color blocking, and then we'll build up layers and layers of watercolor until we're happy with the picture. I'm going to continue with my watercolor now. I've dried it. I've color blocked in the main colors very, very lightly, and now I can go in and be a little bit more specific. I'm choosing to use a bamboo brush, which has a nice point to it, but I can also fill in areas quickly, but you could use a smaller brush if you'd like to. So I started with a cool color to do my outlines, so I'm going to continue with that. So I have a little bit of the purple over here, and I still have a lot of water in this, but now I can start to define my outlines and do the ones that I'm happy with. Make them stand out a bit. And if you feel like you've gotten too dark, you can always go back and just add in some water, and that'll help lighten it up. here. And now I can go in and do some details in the shell. So I've got this edge here. And I'm touching my fingers to the paper so that I can stabilize my brush. Catch the edge here. And then there's the texture on the seashell here. Again, I'm still working with very, very little color, mostly water on the brush. And we're starting to define the seashell a little bit more. Define the cup a little bit more if I need to. I'm going to go with a brown now in the cup. And catch the handle a little bit better here. The edge of the decoration on the cup. So I've dried it again, and now I'll go back and intensify my colors. And I'm also playing with shadows.